Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to Grant Faulkner, who is the executive director of a little thing you may have heard of called NaNoWriMo.
What?
Wait, what's that?
NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, also known as...
Is that a guy?
And so anyway, so we're going to be talking to him. He's got a bunch of good shit going on, not just involving NaNoWriMo, a lot of flash fiction stuff that I think is interesting. So anyway, so we're going to be talking to Grant, but in the meantime... cool making.
I have something cool. So I watched 3 different comedy shows or like comedy specials on Netflix because Cindy was kind of like, "All right, just give me a break." We've done a few hardcore things. We watched American Horror Story, not her favorite thing that we watched. So it was comedy. It was comedy this week. But I really enjoyed all 3. Although we ended the one, do you guys know Anthony Jeselnik at all? Okay, well, he's a little like the verbal American Horror Story, so it was a little bit rough on the ending. But the first one was Christina P. and it's Immaculate or Incompetent or something. Mother Inferior. That's what it's called. And she's pretty funny. But the one I really like that I would suggest everybody watch is Patton Oswalt's.
Saw it.
What'd you think? Don't give away the thing at the end. But what did you think?
I absolutely.
Yeah, I loved it.
Spoiler alert that his wife died.
Well, fucker, you're such a fucker. No, it's not that
everybody knows that. I didn't say anything beyond that.
No, it's not that his wife died. It's how he articulates about that.
And I didn't spoil that, so.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's you're such a dick. So Patton Oswalt is really
it's like
funny.
Hunting around for the spoilers. Hold on, is this the spoiler? Is this the spoiler? Okay, that's the one.
I like his comedy a lot, and I like him. His wife did pass away last year, and I was kind of surprised to see. Okay, he's got a new comedy special. Like that's coming from a dark place, and but as we've talked about many times on this show, comedy is often born, like great comedy is usually born from a pretty miserable place. And so I was really curious. Yeah, you're welcome. I was curious to see how that would, present itself. And I really enjoyed it. I laughed a lot and I cried. And I think that he is a smarter artist. If any of you can look up his, he did an open letter to the creative community like 7 years ago. And then he did on the same day, he did an open letter to Hollywood. And it's really funny. Do you remember this, Dave?
No, I don't.
You remember that?
Yeah, we shared it back in the day. This was when we had the Collective Inkwell website and we were doing like web services.
I know he speculated on his identity as Ain't It Cool?
Neil Cumston. Yeah, I think he was. but anyway, back then he wrote these open letters and they're really funny. One is like, "You have all the power now. You have this in your pocket." He holds up his iPhone and he's talking about how creators today are not the creators of yesterday. We're not slaves to Hollywood. And then he does his open letter to Hollywood and it starts out, "Shalom." It's just super funny. And he's got it all. And I really like how he finished the show. And I just thought it was really strong and inspiring. As a smarter artist, you'll enjoy it.
All right, my something cool will also be something comedy, also on Netflix. I did watch American Vandal.
Oh, how was it?
Better than I thought it would even. Better than I dreamed it would be. It was so well done. It's not often that, because I'm not a big fan of like lowbrow humor, and they nail that line perfectly of like these unlikable people. And I talked about it before, but basically it's like a parody, I suppose, of like the true life documentaries. And it's like 8 episodes, I think, where basically they're trying to dig into the mystery of whether or not this like asshole high school kid spray painted like 20 cars with dicks on them. And the premise is so
ridiculous.
Yes, but they play it straight. And if you watch it, there's like a deeper level there. It's like it actually says some things, and I was just so impressed by it.
Yeah, I totally want to see this. I think it's gonna be awesome.
You should watch that with your wife next.
Okay, I will. Actually, I want to watch Luther. Have you seen that yet?
Yes, I've seen the first 2 or 3 seasons. I haven't seen all of them.
I think there's only 4. Is it? And they're short. They're British, right? So it's like 6.
They're British. Yes. Yes. They're very good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check that out.
You haven't watched it. What with your love for Idris Elba?
I do, and he has his original OG accent in it. Yeah, no, I need to.
That is his accent.
I know. I realized that he's not using an accent; he's just talking in that one.
I got nothing this week.
What?
Yeah, no, nothing, because all of my cool things just relate to shit that we're doing, and so my something cools always end up being promo spots. So it's just like, okay, because honestly, I don't know, like I haven't seen any new movies. I don't watch nearly as much TV as you guys do. I never have these new shows that are going on, so I got nothing.
You read any good books?
What do you do instead of watching TV?
Any rocks you've climbed lately? How are your abs doing, Johnny?
Doing good. Doing good. Well, I did. I mean, of course, this is totally like self-promotional, but I did just write a whole thing about how the summit's better this year.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
But that's not something cool. That's just like a cool thing.
That's something in your day-to-day.
Something in my day-to-day. Christine says, yes, it is cool. Christine has a vested interest in thinking that it's cool, but
Christine says it all in caps, so she really means it.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. How about your something cool was Dave's new anchor mask that he's using as his stone table avatar.
That is pretty cool. Can that be it, Dave? Can you put on your
Dave? Can you show everybody your anger mask?
Not my anger mask. It's
just your regular mask.
A little bit of background. We do stone table videos, like where we give sort of personal updates on what we're doing and stuff. A little behind the scenes. And I don't like the camera just on me. I get very
so much
self-conscious. Like, I'm surprised I've been doing this show as long as I do, because I hate just being on camera. So I was in Target and I saw what I wanted to get actually was this giant unicorn head.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
But it was so big and I couldn't talk through it without so I didn't get it. And it was also like $35, which is a long way to go for a joke. So I got this, and this is what I wear for the videos.
Oh my
God. So you literally played it straight and recorded a video for the stone table in that.
Well, yes, I explained what I was doing, but yes.
Do you remember, were you following Howard Stern at the phase where everybody decided that Gary was too ugly to be around when the hot girls were in the room, and so they made him wear a bee mask?
Yes.
Right, okay. Some similar sort of theme there, I'm guessing.
No, I think it's awesome too, because I mean, I know you guys. We all know each other really well, and we've seen each other's shows. We see the live stream, so we don't need to see the videos that we record for the table because we already know what we're gonna say. Like but I heard Jen slacked me this morning. You have to see Dave's video. Like, you really just have to see Dave's video. So I have not personally seen this. I've only seen the avatar, and I saw the night when it was born, where Dave was in rare form. I mean, you guys have seen Dave angry before, but this is just angry Slack Dave for like, I don't know, there was a good hour of ranting there. And all you had to do is put one word in at a time, and he would just keep going with like blocks of text.
Yeah, I came in when there were like 58 new messages.
Oh, it was so good. He was so angry about so many things. Oh, and all of them just like stuff that is just like, oh, it's misty outside.
I'll have to go back and look for it, so I have material for
Let's
Worst
read
Show
through
Ever.
that exchange on Worst Show Ever.
We should do a dramatic read, like in Shakespearean accent.
Oh, I could see that. You be Dave.
How dare they?
Yeah, so that'll be so good. All right, so
yeah. Well, but I mean, seriously, the summit. I think this airs, and it's before the summit deadline. So I will just mention that because I'm a total shell. Because we extend the early bird deadline to November 15th. So smarter artists.
I'll talk about the summit for a second.
Wait. Before you do that, Beth said Dave needs a puppy. I just want to say my wife won't let me have a dog. So.
Why?
You're too OCD
She's
for a dog. You couldn't take it.
Wait. Why can't you have a dog?
Because
you're clearly not winning the marriage if you can't have a dog.
No, well, because it will shit. It will make a mess, and we have no pets. They've all died, so she just doesn't want to deal with it ever again. So
isn't having like no pets the best time to get a pet?
No, she sees it as a freedom. So, how did they die? They died of natural causes.
I think they died from being around your despair.
Probably. They did all die of cancer, so make of that what you will.
Dude, that shit is catchy. I'm telling you. It takes me like 3 weeks to recover after you leave.
Fuck you.
All right. So
You were saying something about the summit?
Yeah, I was just like, I am. It is something cool, like legitimately. Silly and aside, the summit is exciting. I'm really excited about our venue and all the things we're planning. We're doing things different. We try to
send an email Tuesday that I wrote that has a bunch of pictures of the venue.
Are we in a phone booth this year?
Well, I mean, last year's venue was tight. We learned there was a difference between what a hotel says a room will fit and what it will actually fit.
Yeah.
So like there's these pictures of the big open space and it's just a really cool place. And
yeah, and
social events around it, not just the actual summit itself.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is always to level up, but I think we leveled up in a few of the wrong ways last year, and we're circling back. You know, we don't want to do the same things twice, and so this summit's going to be amazeballs.
Right. So smarterartistsummit.com. And in the meantime, we'll just hang on. We should have Grant here momentarily. I could talk about him, but then...
Should we talk about
here,
NaNoWriMo and how...
Yeah, we should talk about that. That would be a good entree.
Well, it's something that I've never... Like, I wanted to do it before I was a writer, but then once I was writing, and I was writing like a metric fuck ton of stuff, I didn't see a need to do it anymore because I had nothing to prove. But at the same time, like a part of me was like, well, I never did do it, so I would like to do it. But after that, like our schedule was never in a position where it was right, the timing. Like we're just about to start something or we're in the middle of something. So we're never able to start fresh in November. And this will be the first year that that we will be able to do that.
You know, actually, this is a good, I should probably mention this. This was all Christine's idea. We put together a Nano challenge for... it's at sterlingandstone.net/nano. And you guys can see that it's like a guided reading thing that you can do. There's a free level, but there's also ones where you can pay shit and buy shit. But it's super cool. So check that out, sterlingandstone.net/nano. And with that, I see that our guest Grant is here. So
welcome.
So go ahead and unmute, and we'll looking forward to getting started.
Hello. Can you
Hello.
hear me?
Hello, good to meet you. We haven't officially met. We just met via email and exchanges back and forth. But we were just talking about NaNoWriMo.
Yay. Way to go. That's what I love talking about.
How old is Nano now?
It was founded accidentally in 1999 by Chris Beatty. So we're turning 18.
Wow.
We're adults.
I need to hear about
you can legally vote but not drink.
I need to hear that. Founded accidentally. I need to hear that story.
Harvey Weinstein can now officially hit on you.
I think a lot of great things are founded accidentally or started accidentally.
For sure.
And that comes from Chris Beatty. It's not from me. But he woke up in 1999, and as an avid reader, he wanted to write a novel. And he looked over at his bookshelf and picked out some of the more slender volumes, like think Catcher in the Rye, and did a rough estimate that they were 50,000 words, and decided that, he used some very sophisticated math to think, okay, 30 days in the month of November divided, put that into 50, you get 1,677 words a day. So the accidental part, though, he met that first year, he wasn't thinking, I'm gonna found a creative revolution, a creative phenomenon. He just wanted to write a novel, and he invited 20 of his friends to join him. And the next year, they decided it was a worthwhile experience, so they did it the next year, which was the year 2000, and 150 people joined them. They didn't all write in the same cafe by this time. And then the year after that, they put up a very rudimentary website, and about 5,000 people signed up. And last year we had...
Wow, that's fast scale.
Yeah, last year we had 312,000, and that doesn't include the 80,000 kids and teens that wrote in our Young Writers program. So... it all just took off, and that's the accidental part. Is that Chris knew that everyone has a story to tell, and that everyone's story matters. But I don't think he could have predicted the viral spread. How it would just spread on the internet and create this organization.
Well, so I mentioned that you were executive director of NaNoWriMo and also the author of Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo.
Yeah.
And a lot of flash fiction. And so we'll talk about all of that. But I'm thinking as you're giving me the chronology here, like I'm doing the math because I don't believe I was around for anything 18 years ago. Like that's just absurd. But I did Nano. I did it early on, and I haven't done it since. But I did this 1 year, and it must have been like the first or second year that it happened by this chronology. I feel like it was before 9/11. I feel like I would have remembered that, which would have been 2000, which sounds like the second year.
Yeah. Gosh. You know what? Yeah, we'll go through our database. Maybe you were one of those 150. We didn't have a website that year, so you must have heard about it.
Maybe it was after, but it couldn't have been much after because, I mean, I could bore you with a lot of stuff, but I know kind of what was going on in my life at the time, and I feel like it had to have been in one of those first few years. So that's weird to realize it was that early. I figured it was an established thing, and guess not.
Yeah, you know, it really is powered by our community, you know, and I always joke that if for some reason the headquarters didn't, if we went under as a nonprofit, the community would take it forward. So a lot of
yeah, that seems to be the case.
A lot, yeah. People. I mean, 312,000 people who signed up last year. I know that there are thousands who did NaNoWriMo and didn't sign up. So,
yeah, there's a last. I want to say it was 2008 was the first time I heard about Nano, and it was the first time I'd ever like really spent any time online. I had my blog for the first time, and just all of a sudden around November of that year, or October really, everybody was talking about this thing that I never heard of, but it was like this new vocabulary that everybody was sharing and I was exposed to, and I really, really wanted to do it. And I couldn't. We were closing our preschool at the time and just too much going on. I couldn't make it work. Next year, I couldn't make it work. The year after, my partner who I was working with was crazy, and she said, we have to make it time for you to do Nano this year. We have to, no matter what. And that lasted like an hour and a half. And then she put a bunch of shit on my desk and I was buried forever. And then, like Dave said, we started writing fiction constantly, and we were, you know, doing way more than 50,000 words a month anyway, and on many different projects. So it never really fit. And this year, like, we're all kind of dedicated. Okay, well, we're all in between projects. We could start and finish and participate in Nano. So we're grabbing Nano this year. We're going to do it.
All right. Yeah, that's quite a journey. We hear most often the reason that people will say they can't do it is that they say they don't have the time. And I'm just mentioning this because you listed a lot of they weren't excuses, but they were reasons you couldn't do it. And I do think that that's writing a novel is largely an exercise in time management, and that's one thing that National Novel Writing Month teaches writers. I always say before you start NaNoWriMo, it's good to take some time in October and look at your time, look how you use your time. And so I call it going on a time hunt. And what I do is I take a whole week and I look at how I spend every like half hour. And what I find is that I have hours and hours of time available to me, even though I feel like an incredibly busy person. So I think that most people can find the time in their life to write a novel. It's only about 2 hours a day. If you say no to social media, you know, watch a few less TV shows, maybe skip a couple dinner parties and wake up early or stay up later or write on your lunch breaks, you'll find that time.
To do their own thing, leave you alone.
Exactly. Yes, and they will thank you for it, and they will grow up more independent and resourceful. Yeah. And or they'll write with you. You know, when I first started doing NaNoWriMo, my kids did it with me. And they loved going to the write-in, the opening kickoff.
Did they hit the 50,000 words?
Well, they set a lower word count goal, but I think my daughter wrote 10,000 words when she was in 5th grade, which was I was very proud of, very impressed by. Yeah.
I think I'm going to make Haley do this, and then
is Haley your daughter?
Yeah. She's 15, and she's actually a really good writer, but she never has time for writing.
Right. But she does. She does. Tell her to go on our Young Writers program. We just did this huge redesign of the website. And so it's all free. We're a nonprofit. To answer that first question, we became a nonprofit in 2006. But the Young Writers program at 15 years old is perfect for that. So never sign up there.
So you guys are a nonprofit. How do you make any money? How do you do things? Nothing?
Yeah, I do not know. No, I mean, part of our premise, part of that, like everyone has a story to tell, and we want to ignite their creative potential. We really believe that, so we want to keep everything free. You know, we never want to charge $10 to sign up or something like that. And so we really rely on the kindness of others, which means the people who participate in NaNoWriMo, fortunately, they have a great experience and they'll donate $10 or $25 or they'll buy a t-shirt in our store. But we're really like
I donated the first year and I didn't even finish.
Yay, good for you. It's really important because that's how we exist. We're a small nonprofit. We only have 8 people who work here. We have a pretty tiny to modest budget, and yet we have this global program, which is just, you know, it's amazing. Like 500,000 people participate each year, and we don't, you know, we get some grants, but most grants aren't really structured for a nonprofit like us, so we don't really qualify for a lot of grants. So we really do rely on those individual donations.
So what is a process like? Because like I know about it, but I've never really, like I said, I didn't have time to do it because I was already in other projects writing. But so what is a basic process for people that don't know, that have never heard of NaNoWriMo somehow?
Good question.
And the website is NaNoWriMo.com, NaNoWriMo, sorry, .org.
.org.
NaNo.org. So
I'm not sure if .com
International
exists.
Novel Writing Month.
Yeah. Exactly. The process is pretty simple. You know, you go to NaNoWriMo.org, you sign up, and it's pretty much like any other sort of social media platform. You know, you enter a profile, you announce your novel, which really means like giving it a title and maybe a summary, whatever you're comfortable with. And you go on our website, and we are, beyond being a writing event, we're really a writing community. And so people are guided to sign up for their local regions. So for instance, I'm here in Berkeley, and our East Bay region, they will host these fantastic writing gatherings throughout the month of November. Some regions host writing events year round. And then we have online forums on the site where during the month of November, there are literally 1 million posts. So every writing topic under the sun is discussed. And then in addition to that, we have 1,000 libraries who've signed up with our Come Write In program, and they host writing events also throughout November and beyond.
So somebody decides they're going to write a book, a 50,000 word book, and do they enter to be like, do you have any sort of awards or anything for specific people? I mean, you guys aren't reading all these books and stuff.
I forgot to mention one crucial detail is that while NaNoWriMo is happening in November, it's very important to update your word count every day so that you can track your progress and see how much, you know, just chart yourself and keep yourself accountable. And we don't read the books. You know, it's not about the quality of the books. It's about the creative experience. And really the reward, I mean, we give people a winner certificate. We have winner goodies from our sponsors, but the reward is really the gift of writing a novel and achieving something big. And I think that's way more important than anything we could ship people, any trophy we could give them.
Yeah, for sure.
Either of you, Sean or Dave, like Dave, you didn't really know about it, so I'm guessing you haven't done it, right?
No, I haven't done it. This will be the first time. So,
Dave, Sean, have you done it?
No, I signed up that first year, and I didn't.
Yeah, I
did put the badge on my Writer Dad site though, right there in the sidebar.
Even though you didn't do it? Oh, that you were doing it.
Yeah. I'm participating. Not that I didn't brag that I completed.
Liar!
I actually did do it, and I wrote 50,000 words. So I printed out my winner thing, but it didn't go anywhere. Like it wasn't a finished book. It was 50,000 words of stuff that just kind of occurred.
And then what happened on December 1st? Were you just like, fuck it, NaNoWriMo's over? Like,
no, I think that because that was, and this is a long history that people who listen to the show know, like I had a really hard time finishing a book, like actually knowing what to do until I started writing with these guys. But, I don't know if it's changed, Grant, but Dave, in my experience, it was more of a supportive, like a team writing challenge, like everybody do it, everybody's logging, like accountability more than it isn't a competition or anything.
It's not a competition in the sense of finishing and publishing, and like I think the one thing that differentiates our writing community and makes it wonderful is that it is, as you said, based in encouragement empowerment and really rooting people on to reach their goals. Other writing communities, and I don't mean this to diminish them in any way, but they often are about more getting critique and feedback, and they're kind of like a hierarchy or a status of who's getting published and who's not, and that can be important too, that type of community. But the NaNoWriMo community, it really is about cheering people on, telling them they can do it, validating their story. So many people, we exist because so many people put obstacles in front of themselves and their creativity. There was this recent New York Times survey that said 81% of Americans say they want to write a book someday. But of course, most of them don't, right? And unfortunately, that's the way, especially as we get older and have kids and jobs. Creativity drops lower and lower on our list, or entirely off the list. And so we exist to be like, for the month of November, make creativity a priority, and hopefully you go beyond November and write year round.
Yes,
So
I think when you finally finish, I've been writing since I was a kid, and I didn't finish my first book until I actually had somebody that held me accountable. That guy over there, Sean. And there is a difference in how you feel about yourself after you finish that first book. Because I wrote many words, and they all went nowhere. I lost faith in my writing and myself. And I think to be able to finish something and have it there, whether you publish or not, just to have finished it is a distinction that changes how you see your writing and how you see yourself.
Absolutely. We hear stories that people are transformed after writing a novel during NaNoWriMo or after finishing. And sometimes they're not transformed as writers or creators. They're transformed personally in how they act in the world. And it is kind of like when you finish a marathon or climb a mountain and you realize you can do big things. And like you say, that changes you.
So do you have rules and can you plot out the story for months in advance before November, or are you supposed to think of it and do it in November?
So yeah, there's a whole continuum.
We were talking about this yesterday.
We have a lively discussion every year, about that continuum of how much you need to plan your novel or outline it versus pantsing it. And of course, with 500,000 people who sign up to write with us every year, people do, cover the whole spectrum. So we encourage people to plan to write in whatever way suits their creative process. And so, yes, you can make the most meticulous outline in the world. I personally don't like to write to an outline, so I do a lot of scribbles in my journals and notebooks and kind of collect all these various snippets, and then I start writing on November 1st with those in mind.
So can you talk a little bit about the benefits of writing with a community? Because that's the strongest component from what I remember is that there is a community. Most writers write in, solo. So what have you seen there?
It's really interesting because I certainly was a very solitary writer throughout most of my writing career and didn't seek out a community. And I think that was to my detriment. Since I've been here at NaNoWriMo and beyond with my other projects, a writing community, it's just, writing is such a unique and particular thing that being able to share it with other people, you get solace, but you also get inspiration and motivation from them, creative motivation. And beyond that, your community, people like to be good to other people, I think, and writers especially.
That's Dave's mantra.
Right, yeah, writers can definitely get hung up on petty envy and who's getting published and who's not, that kind of stuff. But generally, it's such a struggle, and you face so much rejection as a writer that having a good community, I think, generally will open doors for you, both, in terms of your inspiration, but also in terms of your professional network opportunities.
Have there been, or I'm sure it's impossible to know, people just do their projects and publish, but are there any big giant home runs? I think I remember at one point hearing.
I had this in my notes. I just didn't get to it yet.
Yeah, I don't know if this is completely untrue, but I think I remember hearing Water for Elephants was written during. It was okay. It was during Nano.
We have, as you can imagine, with all these novelists signing up every year, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of traditionally published books, and we have thousands and thousands of self-published books that have come out of NaNoWriMo, and many bestsellers. Yeah, Aaron Morgenstern's Night Circus, Hugh Howey's Wool was written during NaNoWriMo, Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl. So yeah, there are just a lot of great. Marissa Meyer has written all of her novels with NaNoWriMo, or when she can't do them during NaNoWriMo because of her publishing schedule, she will do them. She will set up her own NaNoWriMo and write 50,000 words in 30 days. So yeah, we have a lot of wonderful writers who've come out of NaNoWriMo.
Now,
50,000 words in. Go ahead, Dave.
Now, when you're talking about writing 50,000 words, that's just the rough draft, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll actually.
Yeah, some people get confused and they think that we are operating on this premise that you can write a publishable novel in 30 days, and we're not saying that. We're saying banish your inner editor, write with abandon, clear out all the obstacles between yourself and the words on the page. And then, we believe in revision, revision.
Yeah, you're just talking ass and seed. And I could not love this anymore, because we've kind of founded the company on that. And when I first came across Nano, that was not the standard. Like, there are a lot of people who now their business model is NaNoWriMo every month, right? Like, that's what they actually do. They're constantly writing and producing and publishing. They write, publish, repeat. But that didn't exist at the time. And so you guys were really ahead of the curve. That, look, just sit down and write. And no, you shouldn't publish a rough draft, but there's no reason you can't get all your ideas out in a logical order, especially if you prepare for it in October. Then you could actually just sit down and, like you said, turn off your inner critic and get to work. And it is some simple math. It's less than 2,000 words a day for 30 days. Commit.
And we would actually argue that you can write a publishable book in 30 days.
Yeah, it depends on the project and your expectations for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is what it's about. The rough draft, for me, it's a very exploratory stage in the creative process. So I'm really looking to find my story and to take creative risks, and I'm fine with it being messy. I don't even call it my first draft. It's my zero draft. And then my next draft is my first draft.
Dave calls all his drafts his zero draft.
Yeah.
Published, yes.
I like this quote from Barbara Kingsolver that I recently heard. She starts at page -100. She writes 100 pages just to find her story and to start the rough draft. And I really do think that's the too many people that's where we see people putting up obstacles, is their rough draft doesn't match their favorite author's polished novel. And they forget that their favorite authors have put their rough draft through numerous revisions or had professional editors look at it,
and had a lot of life and rough drafts before that novel.
Exactly.
Right?
Ray Bradbury says you have to write several thousand or 100,000 throwaway words before you're, become a good writer.
Yeah, my only worry here is that Dave is going to start numbering his pages infinity, negative infinity, negative infinity, negative infinity, and then we just never start.
It's one big sandbox for Dave, one big playground.
So 50,000 words in 30 days, obviously that's a mathematical way to look at this. So let's talk about the idea of writing under time pressure, time pressure with a deadline, because that's kind of a keystone that we believe as well. And that's obviously what NaNoWriMo is all about. Yeah.
I think a lot of times people think constraints are negative things, but constraints can be wonderful for your creative process. It's one thing, it's motivating. You wake up every day, you have to write 1,700 words. So you're very focused on progress. This is one reason NaNoWriMo works for me. Before I did NaNoWriMo, I was the type of writer, I called it ponderous preciousness, which means that I would just go over my first chapter over and over and over again and keep tweaking it and keep shaping the contours of it, because I thought I had to get it really perfect before I could move on. And what I was doing, I was kind of sabotaging myself, because what inevitably happens is that once you finish a novel, that first chapter gets entirely changed or chopped.
Oh yeah.
So it's really important that pressure of the constraint and having to show up every day, and that pressure actually to put out words too. What I loved about it is that when I did NaNoWriMo the first time, I took so many creative risks that I wouldn't have ordinarily taken. So it was really, really nourishing to have that pressure. And that's where the banishing the inner critic comes in. You know, I view it as improvisational writing in some respects. So it's like you're an improv actor, and instead of saying yes and to the characters on stage with you, you're saying yes and to the characters in your head or the words on your head, and bringing them out on the page.
Yeah, comparing yourself to your favorite writers is just a horrible way to go. I mean, when I first read Clive Barker, I didn't write for maybe a year, I think. I don't know, because I was just like, I will never equal that. And I now realize I don't have to. I'm doing my own thing. And there's a tremendous relief in lowering those goals to something more realistic, and eventually you'll find your voice, and you'll find some. Maybe you'll even be better than the person you're emulating. But to hold yourself to that standard early on is nothing but detriment.
You'll be different. So I've mentioned this a few times, and I actually get this from Sean, but I believe it was a Hank Ketchum quote, right, or something, where he said that he found his songwriting voice or whatever it was when he stopped trying to imitate Van Morrison.
Yeah, right.
Just realizing that Dave, no matter how good you are, you'll never be like Clive Barker, because you're not Clive Barker.
I like that you put good in quotes, though.
Well, but that's my point. It's not an objective standard. It's not something to shoot for. Yeah. It's everybody's good for themselves, No,
and I actually think there's a tremendous amount of value in copying when you're first starting. I wouldn't take it to this extreme. For sure. Right, I wouldn't take it to this extreme at all. But I have heard this, and I do understand the purpose of it, to take something that you really love and just type it out by hand. Just like sit there and just copy it, right? Not that you would ever publish
and
that.
Then submit it to Nano.
I did it.
I do think, everybody has a different relation to their favorite authors. And I think, per what Dave said, sometimes that can be inhibiting if you're really measuring the quality of your story or prose to them. But also it can be really inspiring. I mean, I think what we're talking about is, like, for me, it's like I will read my favorite authors to hear their voice and to be inspired by that voice. And sometimes I think my own writing, now that I'm an older writer, not a younger writer, that question of voice is really interesting to me. Because when I was a younger writer, I just thought you had to originally kind of conjure this amazing and unique voice like William Faulkner. But what I realize now is that my voice is really a collage of my favorite authors who I have emulated or who I do listen to. I'm kind of in conversation with them when I write. So they're more nourishing than inhibiting at this point.
Yeah, I think your voice isn't something that you try for. It's just something that is after all your hours of working. It's just something that is just like a sum of your life.
Well, it's something you sharpen. It's something that you work on. And I think it's one of those things where you notice what you're good at, lean into it, and you notice what your tics are, lean away from those, right? But it's something that you get better at. You're fine. It's like a stand-up comic knows what's going to trigger the audience. They know how to pace. They know how to use their body. They know how to use their voice. And they get better and better at that the longer that they're on stage. Well, the page is our stage. And the longer we spend on it, the better we get at using sentence and structure. Not just that, but pulling the reader's heart and mind and, being able to navigate them where we want them to go.
So what are some of the other challenges that you find are very common among the people that are doing NaNoWriMo?
The one that I would love to address the most is people who, when they fall behind their word count goals, they stop writing.
Oh, I was just going to ask. Yes,
it's like going off your die and saying, oh, well, bring on the donuts.
Exactly.
How many times have you done that, Dave?
Every time.
Yeah. And whether
that's what happened to me every time with Nano too. Every time.
But the whole premise of the month, as I said earlier, is like to make writing or make your creativity a priority for the whole month. So even if I've had so many people apologize to me. They say, oh, I'm sorry, I only wrote 10,000 words. And I'm like, wow, 10,000 words in a month, that's 120,000 words in a year. That's a huge novel, maybe 2 novels. So I think people need to celebrate no matter what they achieve and to try to keep that creative momentum going. And if it's day 3 and you get sick or you get a huge work project, I mean, I think so much of a part of being a writer long term is coming back from lapses,
Oh, for sure.
We're all going to have lapses, whether it's a lapse because of our own self-doubt or emotional state or something that happens in our lives. But the thing is to come back from that lapse. That's what being a writer really means. So,
and is that Sorry, is that somewhere where the community really helps to lift somebody back up?
Exactly what I was going to ask.
I think generally that's the best case scenario, is that when people do listen to community or just their own willpower and just dig in. And, we have had some amazing like hero stories where people will write, 20,000 words in the last 2 days of November just to like win, they'll just like pump up on the coffee and keep going. And you'll see it. Like if you watch I talk about our website, but really NaNoWriMo happens like largely on social media. And so if you go on Twitter those last couple weeks of November, you'll see some amazing stories, and you'll see the community cheering them on online, people that they don't even know, but it's just, that's the nature of who we are.
Do you have any line of sight to how many people, what the completion rate is versus, or people who participate in the community versus I've signed up, I'm doing it on my own, and like those numbers?
We do, yeah. If you participate in our forums, or if you go to a write-in in your local region, you are much more likely to win. Yeah, I can't give you the exact figures, but we do have them. So there's a correlation.
It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's like anything. If you have a support network, you are just, like Dave said, he'd still be plinking away into available darkness probably. Yeah. So
strangely enough, if you donate, you're also more likely to succeed.
That didn't work for me.
Very handsome.
But I think the reason is that you have invested in yourself and your novel, and you've invested in our organization too at the same time, fortunately. But there's just something about that, like putting some more skin in the game, I think.
Yeah, no, actually, can we talk about this for a second? Because this is absolutely true. I mean, you find it in the world of consulting, you find it in education, you find it everywhere. When people get something for free, they are less committed. Yeah. That's just human nature. So have you ever thought about, even $1, like the point is not to make money, but if you want to participate in Nano, you have to pay $1, because I know you'd get all kinds of angry writers who are like, you're charging $1. You guys are getting rich off my $1, right? But by doing that, there's a psychological trigger that happens in their brain. So maybe it could be free or committed. And you actually could do it for free, but by saying I'm paying $1, I'm committed, that changes the relationship with Nano.
It does. We have thought about it. And like I said earlier, our guiding mission is to make writing available to everyone. And we want everyone to write their story. So we don't want to put any roadblocks in front of them and their story. So we run fundraising campaigns that are about commitment. We say commit $1 a day to your novel, and that will help you.
That's great. $1 a day.
So we do.
That's way better than my measly $1. That's 30.
No, it's all good. It's all good. When you're running a nonprofit, you have to think of these things.
Or $1 for every 1,000 words you fall short of your goal.
There you go. A little bit of negative there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Dave's job. see how we had a positive idea there and he turned it upside down.
It is a Pavlovian experience though. Like writing a novel in 30 days or writing a novel in general, it's full of rewards and punishments. So whatever motivates you in the end is what's important.
So speaking of the motivation, you wrote the book with the pep talks.
Dave, let me show run.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I keep going for things. These guys are so eager. Grant, this doesn't normally happen. Everybody's really eager to talk to you. You should take that as
I'm loving it.
So your book is Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo. We have a short link for that, which is sterlingandstone.net/pep talk. So where did you get these insights? Are they mainly from Nano? Your credentials are mentioned in the description, but is that where you gleaned a lot of this?
I gleaned a lot of it from Nano, definitely. That was a large motivation to write the book. I've talked to so many writers who found themselves as creators during NaNoWriMo, and they want to write year-round, but I compare it to a New Year's resolution when people buy a gym membership in January, and sometimes they show up for 3 or 4 weeks, but then they quit going in February or March.
That long?
At my gym, we had a word for those guys. The regulars called them resolutionists.
Yeah,
that's
stuck around for more than a few weeks.
So I want people to go to the writing gym year round, and that's why I wrote the book. But so it's one part about my experiences with NaNoWriMo, and then one part, I think, largely my experiences as a writer. I've gone through a lot of different stages as a writer and had a lot of different experiences. But yeah, it's really about helping people be creative year round, and whether that's writing or just creativity in general. I think it's really important, because I think when people are creative, they approach the world and life differently. They're not consumers, they're actors. You know, they're change agents. They have a vision, and I think we all need to do that.
What sorts of things are in these pep talks? Like, what are because it's insights, it's called pep talks. So what are some of the types of things that are in here?
Yeah, so each chapter, 52 chapters, so you can read one a week, or you can just pick out chapters by topic, depending on what your current writing challenge is. And then every essay, they're miniature essays, they're very digestible, probably 3 or 4 pages each at the most. And then each one ends with a takeaway, like something. It's like a little bit of homework, but homework in the short term. You can always do it within the week at hand. And I think there are a lot of different themes within it. A lot of it is about the introspection and identifying those like psychological obstacles that are holding you back. Either they're holding you back from writing, or, you know, sometimes like something as simple as saying, I am a real writer. People have a really hard time saying I'm a real writer. And the real part, I think, is because they think I need to be published to be a real writer, or I need to receive awards. And I think you're a real writer because you write. And the more you can embrace that identity and inhabit it, you're going to be more brave on the page. You're going to write better stuff. You're going to write this. You're going to find your voice, like we were talking about earlier. You're going to take those risks. So yeah, and you know, I address also being creative off the page too, because I think our life as a writer, it's not just about looking at the laptop. It's how we nourish our creativity in the world itself. And so I think. We need to have, as creators, we need to kind of constantly be investigating our creative process and experimenting with it. So a lot of the chapters address that as well.
What sorts of things are, so you gave an example, like being a real writer. Are any others that are, because honestly, let me just stop us for a second and say, I actually love that one before I continue with my question. Because there's this whole culture of people who feel that you're a writer, you can just kind of imbibe that. It's actually the other opposite extreme of what you were saying. And no, you need to write to be a writer, which is kind of what Nano is about. You don't just get to magically be a writer if you don't ever actually do any writing. But you mentioned motivation, encouragement, helpful exercises. Can you give us a little bit more of like what you're finding that writers need from just interfacing with so many writers?
Yeah, there are, for instance, there's a chapter on embracing vulnerability. I think a lot of people, I think beyond the craft, there are all these how-to books, how to write suspense, how to write dialogue, how to write plot. The books that I think we connect with the most strongly are the books where the writer laid his or her heart on the page and developed characters that we can really feel as if they're living, breathing beings. And so, for instance, there's a chapter on that. Some of the NaNoWriMo techniques, when I mentioned improvisational writing earlier, that's another great thing about improv actors. It's all about saying yes and to the world. It's all about like being vulnerable and just experimenting. And one of the things that we do, this part of our NaNoWriMo, the fabric of our event and our creative process is word sprints. So if you're, I don't believe in writer's block, for instance. There's a lot of chapters on writer's block is something that people tell themselves. It's not something that really exists. And so like a word sprint, I've watched this hundreds of times. You get a group of people together. They can be anybody in the world. And if you give them a writing prompt and tell them to write as many words as they can in 5 minutes, they will all write words. One sentence breeds another sentence. And so, and even just doing like back to the math, like when I give people a writing prompt and have them write for 5 minutes, they will generally write 200 or 300 words. So just 300 words a day, that's almost 10,000 words a month. That's 120,000 words a year, And so if you can do things like that, yeah, you are a writer. You're writing, but it's only like 5 or 15 minutes a day. And one of the stories I tell in the book is how Toni Morrison wrote her first novel. She was a single working mom. She came home, took care of her kids, fed them, got them to bed, and she had about 15 minutes left in the day to write. And they were her worst creative time. She was exhausted, but she wrote 15 minutes a day, and that's how she wrote her first novel. And I think everybody can find those 15 minutes a day. So the book helps with a lot of that kind of exploring yourself, exploring who you are as a writer, exploring who you are as a writer in the world, and then really, you know, making things happen, because NaNoWriMo is largely about accountability and belief in yourself and pushing boundaries. So I try to address all those themes.
What have you seen in terms of the differences? But notice how they've gone totally silent now.
You scolded him to show run it. I'm like, all right, Johnny,
Daddy raised his voice.
Run as fast as you can.
There's a middle ground. But what I was going to ask is, what have you seen in terms of differences between like what brand new? Because I imagine there's a lot of people who Nano is their first thing. They're like, okay, I've been wanting to write forever. I'm going to do it with Nano, and they're brand new. But I would also imagine that there's a ton of experienced writers, like we're experienced writers, we're going to do it. So in terms of what motivates and drives, and what are the success and you know, success principles for different writers at different experience levels is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, in some ways I don't think it's all that different. I think every novel is a new novel, and so every novel poses challenges for a writer each time. And I've talked to writers on the whole spectrum, from beginning writers to professional writers, and it's interesting to me how professional writers, they might be a little more savvy, they might have a little bit more confidence because they've done it before, but they also have self-doubt. When I open up my laptop in the mornings and if I have a new deadline or article to write, sometimes it's amazing how I'll open it up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I finally hit the wall. I cannot do it. I cannot write this piece. It's too challenging for me. But then once you get the words on the page, you know, even if it's just 500 words one day, you'll have those words the next day, and you'll develop that momentum. So, you know, I mean, I do think it's more challenging for the beginning writer, but that's where it comes in. I think doing things like the time hunt I mentioned, having a strategy before November, like that's the thing. If you start without a strategy, you're just more likely to lapse and quit. So I do think thinking about how you're going to arrange your life to succeed. Also thinking about, you know, giving your novel some thought ahead of time. We have a lot of people who like to just start from scratch, and that can work for some people. But I do think generally it's better to have some idea of the trajectory and the direction your novel's going in, so that you're kind of writing in pursuit of that. But I think every writer, you know, you face those weird challenges where you think you have writer's block. You tell yourself you have writer's block, but what you're really happening is that you're shutting yourself down. You're putting obstacles in front of yourself on the words. So
I think experienced writers, if you are an experienced writer and you don't think you need to do NaNoWriMo, I would suggest the challenge element of it. Write something different than you normally write out of genre, write something that will be a challenge, and then maybe that excitement that you might not feel in the finishing of a book can return because you're writing something different. You're challenging yourself.
I advise people to always experiment a little bit in some different way with NaNoWriMo every year, because NaNoWriMo is a creative experiment, you know, just by definition. And per the accomplished writers, I've had writers, well-published writers, call me up and say, how do I sign up? You know, like they actually need it. We all need accountability. We all need a way to measure our progress and be motivated. So I think it's really for everybody.
What do you think is more important between getting the 50,000 words in and actually completing a project? So like Johnny said, he got to his 50,000 words and then he kind of hit a wall. Like, I don't know what to do next. So would it be better to say, you know what, Nano for me this month is going to be about completing a project. Maybe it's a 38,000 word novella, but I complete it in that time. Would you say that that's more important than I got to get my 50,000 words?
I think it depends on what your needs are as an author and what your goals are. You know, we exist to serve people's goals, not to bind them in to our definition of what success is. So I think the thing with Johnny and his 50,000 words is that I would hope that he would keep writing those after November. And we have a program called I Wrote a Novel, Now What? It happens in January and February, and it focuses mainly on revision and publishing decisions. But that's what my book is also about. It's like, don't stop at 50,000 words. If you have a 75,000 word story, finish it, because the gift, I mean, it's one gift to write 50,000 words of a novel, but it's a bigger gift to actually finish it, I think. I just think there's a sense of satisfaction to realize the whole story. And that's why I encourage people to revise also, because you go deeper in revision than you do in a rough draft. Mm-hmm. But you know, I mean, we have a whole branch of NaNoWriMo, which we call the Nano Rebels. And so they might write a 38,000 novella, that word novella, that might be their goal. So they classify themselves as rebels, or they might write short stories, or they might write a memoir. So we're really there to support people, no matter what their goals are.
So it's NaNoWriMo.org, NaNoWriMo.org. And then Grant Faulkner's book, Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo. The short link is sterlingandstone.net pep talk. Seems really cool.
And it begins in November, NaNoWriMo.
And it's in November, yes, National Novel Writing Month.
Thank you, Dave.
This is going to come out a week before November begins, I think. So you guys should be hearing this in time to get on there. And I'll just add real quick, like if you want to check out our Nano Challenge, it's a little different than if you have your own idea, whatever, and you don't want any guidance, then forget it, just do your own thing. But ours is at sterlingandstone.net/nano. And Story Shop is free for writing if you need a writing tool. So anything else we want people to know about, Grant?
No, I just want them to sign up, believe in themselves. If you've got a story to tell it now. Don't wait for someday. Someday just never happens. Too many people say, I want to write a novel someday. We exist to help them write it today.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Someday you'll die. That's someday.
There it is.
But today you should write.
And there are many people who've been on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have written that novel. I wish I would have written my story. So don't be one of those people.
I think t-shirt idea, tomorrow, someday you'll die, today you write, or something like that. Right, Dave?
I like it. All
right. So thanks so much for being on, Grant. It was
Thank
great
you.
meeting you. Great having you on to talk about NaNoWriMo. And thanks everybody else for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks very much. Great to meet you.